Okay, good morning everybody, kia ora. Welcome to our Manawhenua Forum meeting this morning, those online staff and members, welcome. I'd like to start with the karakia, please. Mike, happy to do that, thank you.
Tā whiri mai ko te atu whirunga hene o ngā mau pōrero mai ne tuake nei. Tā ki atu ki wino o ngā maunga e karopoti hea o ngā tāti ki. Ka poine te kiwi te pōnga te pōka ki te ngā kākā tarahai te tāti tango tēnei ata. Whirunga hene o ngā maunga pōrero mai mahuranga tua whenua ki tai atu ki tau. I hori ai te pāri ki o ngā pōrero. Ai a whia nuku hei a whia papa tūru ki takoto nei. Tēnā tūturu whakamoa.
Apologies to you.
It's just on the browser. Apologies in my email.
Yes, thank you. Okay, apology. Eyes in the meeting. Okay, so we'll be a little bit late. Thank you. Yes. It's an apology from Craig and an apology from Tahu. Thank you. Would someone like to move the apologies be received? Thank you. Mike, a seconder. Thanks, Andrea. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Okay, are there any notifications of urgent business? Brought to attention. Any declarations of interest? Okay, so we'll just move on to the confirmation of the minutes from the 11th of February. Someone was there would like to move that they be accepted? Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
No.
Thank you. And the seconder? Thanks, Hanarangi. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Right. Now, our first item, quite a significant one, is the appointment of the chairperson to our Manawhenua Forum. So we'll take the report as read, but Tuatari, if you'd like to lead it, thank you.
Tēnā rā te whare, nei rata mi mau nā ka koe pāpa waira, mai ki tūparai ko tātanei wikuina e tēnei wā. Au te rā ka tātai kua rawi ka mai tēnei wikuina. First, I'd like to acknowledge for opening up the settings and to everybody present in our Manawhenua Forum or more Matamata-Piako. The report 7.1 regarding the appointments of the chairperson to the Manawhenua Forum of the Piako. At this point, we have had some discussions and the appointment of a new chairperson. The recommendation that's in front is for the report to be received, and second, the form to appoint a new interim chairperson for the forum. From the discussions we have had within the forum itself, we have Hinerangi being nominated and by a few members, and also she has graciously accepted. But the floor is open to any by any queries and feedback.
Is there any discussion? Otherwise, Jill's
Just a question. Just sort of hit that word interim.
Yeah.
Why is the purpose of interim?
We are still working on the details on the roles and responsibilities of what the chairperson might bring to the forum. We're still having those discussions internally.
It hasn't been updated for quite some time.
It hasn't been updated for some time.
Is there just twice member? I don't see any reason for the membership for the interim to be there. Why don't we just appoint the chair proper as opposed to interim? And we can always revisit delegations responsibilities segregated to that.
If that is the recommendation from the forum?
Yeah, on the deck, it needs to be moved.
Well, once Jill was moving, she had moved, but before the discussion occurred. But
okay,
it's I'm entirely in your hands. This is your decision. And is there any further, do you have a view on the interim or the Jill?
What, if any, procedural issues does arises?
No.
No, I think it's just a case of just sorting out, updating the roles and responsibilities and the remuneration of the chair.
I'm happy to move that we endorse Hanani as the chair.
As the chair.
Maki te tupu.
Now I guess we go back. There's an interim.
She doesn't have a choice.
Yeah.
We decide. The conversation with Tuatau was like, it'll be interim until it's confirmed. I'm like, I guess that's today.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's
Didn't do that. Thank you, Hilary. Okay, so we have the recommendation moved that the report be received and that the forum appoint a new chairperson, Hilary by Moxlow, and that is moved by Jill and seconded by Mike. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. And Hinerangi, I invite you to step over to the top
seat.
spot. Thank you. Very official. It is. Thank you for the sheet. All right, kia ora koutou, ngā mihi kia koutou. I'm very honoured to have this seat. I kind of, when someone mentioned it the other day, I thought, I haven't really been in that long, but my baby who I used to breastfeed at this table during these 2 years now, almost 5, so I should have had enough experience now. So thank you for your support, fellow members. And you know, yeah. So fifth item on the list is not on the agenda, but it's a late business item, climate change update.
Just
the Oh, okay. So going to go to the climate change update. I'd like to invite Cliff Kelly from Mokoa, who's here, part of this conversation. Did you want to join us up here, speak if you would like? Oh, sorry, Cliff Kelly's here from Mokoa. He's just an observer today, but I understand you would like to sit in on this conversation. Yeah. I can go to Anne Gummer. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Molly and I just have a few slides to share. So this is just to give you a brief update on 3 pieces of work that have been happening within the climate change work program. So first of all, the carbon emissions inventory that we just got done for the council operations. Then the Hauraki District Adaptation Planning presentation, which took place recently, and which some forum members attended. And then just an update on some climate change comms that we've started to develop. So recently undertaken, it was only looking at council's emissions, not the district's emissions. And the graph on the screen shows you the 5 main sources of emissions for our council. So by far and away, the biggest emission source for us is the biogenic emissions that come from the treatment of our wastewater. And then from their electricity use across our operations, the diesel and petrol that we use for transport. And the last one there, natural gas, is primarily used as a heat source for Lawrenceville Pool. So undertaking this emissions inventory was one of the deliverables within the climate change roadmap, and just demonstrates to the community that we are monitoring and reporting on our own emissions, and it can form a basis for looking for ways for us to reduce emissions across council, especially where that also has cost saving or energy security benefits to our council. And just for your interest, just to compare, this is the emissions profile for our actual district, which is undertaken by WRC regularly, showing the main sectors that contribute to emissions within our whole district, just for your information. Happy to take any questions on that. So, if no questions, I can just go on to the next.
Just the emphasizing on the obvious agriculture is the greatest polluter.
Yeah, for both our district and for our region in general. Yeah, the agriculture, which is our crops, our livestock, and our fertilizer use. Yeah. So the next thing I was just going to briefly talk to you about was the presentation which took place here. We have we had staff and elected members from Hauraki District Council and the Waikato Regional Council here to talk about the climate change adaptation planning projects they've been doing both on the Wharikawa coast and now on the Hauraki Plains. So it was just really an opportunity to sort of build some relationships and to share knowledge about what's been involved in undertaking those projects. So I was wondering if any of the members who were there, if you had any thoughts or feedback from being at that presentation that you'd like to share with everyone. It was quite a detailed discussion. We started talking off firstly about the legislative context and then going through the actual the 10-step process that's involved in working with the community, where you first talk about what the community values most. Then you look at what climate change hazards are present, and then you look at how those hazards are going to impact those things that are of most value to the community. And that gives you an idea of what the key risks are. And then the idea is that you work with the community to look at what the options will be to manage those risks. And you come up with a number of different pathways, and which avoids you spending masses of money up front. You have signal points so that when a risk becomes intolerable, so if your property floods at the moment every 5 years, but that over time that becomes flooding every year, that might become an intolerable risk to you, at which point you have a trigger to make a decision about what to do next. So that's sort of the planning process in a nutshell.
Miha tura kia tātou tōnu tātou apology Ricky tūrei pai. Well, it'll be there. So in this quarter the other day we had the opportunity just to I guess the impacts of climate change in our district and the impacts of the waterways in our district, and then the impacts of the treaty settlement co-governance arrangements that will be held over our waterways, ascending right out to Hauraki. This was an issue that we had the chance just to talk about, and for us here in Matamata-Piako, how prepared we are as a council to understand those impacts, not only for this floor here, but also all the way up to Te Kaupapa. That's part and parcel of this conversation. So just, I guess, putting it on the table for us to have it back in our minds as we're considering these conversations, in particular regional council and Matamata-Piako. So, yeah.
Kia ora koutou. Tēnā ki ngami te mātua hei te pāwhakawaira wairua hei whakawātea tātou nei hui to kia koe te matua. Ko te matua. Good morning, everyone. So I'm a little bit fresh in the space of whare kawa to understand some of the climate change issues. So my focus, I guess, here coming here today to listen to the kōrero is around freshwater impacts from the impacts of climate change on freshwater resources. I had the opportunity to take part in this hui, but still, I guess I'm trying to understand the impacts around climate change. So from my still just picking up on.
I don't know if this is sort of an open forum question, but a number of years back we did some NIWA modelling of what would look like if climatic happened and if all the ice melted. I think you'd have your port at something like Matamata, and they're able to do that type of delivery, to show what that would mean. And as you can see, the global change is happening, and things are happening around. But in particular, probably what we do now and for the next 50 years, those are the exceptional changes. As you can see, that you're either getting flooded or you're getting burned out, one or the other. We seem to have a mixture of both those issues, both with forestry, and then if you go too high, you've got eroding and all that type of thing. Again, when we came out with our report, there were still buildings being built and approved for our school building in Manawhenua as an example. And I think inside the new building that we were designing at the time, the table was your median result, and your exception would be about that high. And as we saw in the Gabriel, that hit down below there, at the time down there, where they simply run people to get up on your roof as quick as you can, that was perhaps the message. And that Gabriel was meant to hit no other than here that night. So at 9 o'clock at night, we were getting rung up. I'd seen where hours, everything, and on the brand of the paper wasn't even moving. So we knew it had gone somewhere else. We didn't know who it had been hit, but they'd been hit. As thing to say that with the NIWA report and this report, which is probably about 15 years ago, these at that time, the wheels of bureaucracy of councils and planners moved so slow. I asked the question, why do you come with a median? And they said, so you can't scaremonger councils into having to set the bar at a relatively more succinct position. And doesn't that then place the cost of approving buildings inside those areas? And then what do you do when they're built there? And when this happens, who does the responsibility fall on the climatic change and the responsibility for the fix-up? And again, I think when we do the climate change, we do the 50-year planning change, which is a non-statutory document, those documents. They're more about the realities of life and what you really want to do and the aspirations you want to put together. Or councils such as this and that are so close to Auckland. So if that disaster does hit this area, one of the realities was it would all go to Auckland for resources to fix up the country, and those in the rural areas, you'd have to pick it up your own. And so you looking at the plan and everything else, seems to be that everyone sits around and says, well, let's hope Auckland doesn't get hit when we get hit, and that we get hit separate to the other. Because we get hit at the same time, it ain't coming to Coromandel. And I suppose what I'm trying to say here is the resilient plan, and I'm just looking at all these plans. The other side of the adaptation is how do we readapt, and what do we really need to readapt now? So if you're looking at Wharekawa, for example, we have one marae that's obviously inside that area there, and it's been approved and only just built and continually being built. So what is the responsibility for, I suppose that's Franklin was that Hauraki District Council area? What's their plan in for doing the adaptation for that? And most of our marae and our urupa are down on those lower levels anyway as well. Obviously, they're not going to move those there, so there's those types of questions.
There's a few things in there, just responding to that, your last question about what the plan is on the Wharekawa coast. I think partly it's difficult, like what Matua Gary said at the presentation, is because of all those important sites that are down on the shoreline. It's not a simple matter of just picking up and moving. But with the Wharekawa Coast Plan, what they did was they separated and they made 5 smaller areas and worked with each of those community areas separately to make decisions for the short, medium and long term about what to do when certain trigger points were reached. And that's all in this plan. It's a really good plan to have a look at in terms of explains really well the process that was undertaken. In general, one of the things that came out at the presentation was the importance of being proactive and doing this work before disaster hits so that you are ready, and also the importance of the civil defence side of things, that it's really interlinked with thinking about climate change response. And I guess for our council at this point, the focus is around really understanding our risks well, because that makes the base, gives us a really good base to know what to work from. So, we have been doing the flood modelling work for our urban areas that will give us a really good understanding of what the risks are there. And we are using the latest NIWA data in those models, and there's guidance around which of the NIWA which of the climate scenarios to use. So, but in terms of roles and responsibilities, that is a really complicated question that's been brought up time and time again with central government, that that's something that needs to be apportioned in terms of the funding, the roles and responsibilities.
Madam Chair, just picking up on some of that conversation, one of the things that we've been hearing just recently, actually, in the last couple of weeks or so, is conversations around sort of managed retreat. I think that language in Scotland is a bit of that. But just that notion that as we see some things like the fast track, well, some of the areas along that Wharekawa coast are this Māori land, and the ability to be able to pick up and move to a higher areas is generally looking at those types of properties. That I don't know what that looks like around the rest of the coast of Hauraki, but I would say it'd be a similar thing. I'm aware that there's probably 4 or 5 urupa along that coastline, right on the beach, and the whole ability to think about there's going to be a requirement for our people to decide what is the financial impact of some of these managed retreats. And I don't know what the new term is, but to extend to Papaku to be able to re-enter all those things aren't cost that you can put a finger on, but there are activities that if these processes were to continue, that Te Ao Māori would have to have some really long considerations about how do we manage that. What does that impact on any sort of arrangement that might look like managed retreat? How might that impact on the Crown's ability to take lands and usually our lands, Māori lands, for things like retreat processes? So just a lot of cordial that needs to sit amongst our iwi to think about as we're having this discussion. It's really just a precursor to all of that That's all stuff.
Just moving on to the last short update is just to let you know that we have started to develop a climate change webpage. That's the address for it. It's not on the main website, it's on our new consultation website, because alongside the webpage, we have put 3 questions that we're seeking community feedback on, which are these 3 questions here. Just as a very early step in sort of informing development of a climate resilience strategy down the track. So far we've just let people know about these questions through some community engagement opportunities, but I will start to put that out on Facebook and things. So if you would like us to share them to your marae pages or kura or any other, if you have any suggestions on how to get people who would like to respond to think about these questions, because that really helps us to understand community activities. That is everything from me.
Just back to your point, have those considerations been put into that plan?
I'm sorry, I don't know. I haven't read the whole of the Wharekawa 2120 plan. I'm sorry. Iwi were, and my understanding is Iwi were very much part of the project. So I hope so.
Listen, Frank. I would say that as we look at these questions, I think that's sort of ideal time to reflect on these types of this type of call to reflect on the response that we might give to council through these questions. So they probably aren't being considered. Be correct in that. Yeah. So just putting them on the table, I guess we're talking here about Wharekawa, but actually there's probably many areas in Aotearoa where this type of thing would apply.
I think with this was very much an information piece for us to understand what's happening downstream and what we can take from it. We're in a very early stage of developing this piece of work, so this was just a part of learning what's happening in our immediate neighbourhood. So I wouldn't say that it's not being considered. It's just that we haven't reached that point yet in our discussions, just to assure you.
So do you want sort of areas of concern now, or do you want us to go through this research process?
This was just, I think, not now. We probably haven't. We could do it as, but if you would like to do a workshop where we go deeper into these questions, that would be really helpful for that. The other thing is, if you have suggestions of ways that we could share this survey, these questions with the wider public for feedback as well. But if you would like to have a workshop where we go deeper into these questions, it'd be great.
It's just maybe sort of food for thought. It's not specifically a concern for Orokawa, but it's part of like rivers, the indivisible entities. One of the things that's happening increasingly is that the regional council's got like flood areas where they divert water to and store, but because we're getting increasing frequency and intensity of storms, they are vulnerable to not being able to clear that storage out. And what happens is the pasture dies, the oxygen is stripped from the water. When they release the water, there's what's called a black water event, which means that everything in the water dies. And this is going to happen more and more frequently as we get an increasing intensity of the strength and frequency of storms. So I think that's going to be a big issue. Probably not at our end of the hour. Now we're up higher. We don't have those storage areas, but as you move down towards towards the mouth of the river, that's going to be an increasing issue. And our waterways are already under stress. It's under stress already, and to have this piled in on top of is a problem. There are ways of oxygenating that water, ensuring that you have oxygenated water in those storage areas, and I think that could be something that will be fruitfully looked at. Nobody appears to be thinking about it. They just sort of go shrug and move on, really. And then there's the obvious things of Marae. The cyclone debris showed how much Marae sort of a community centre where people go to. So having Marae prepared, understanding the risks to Marae of any events, and also looking at the roading network. Is there, are there things that can be done to make sure people can reach those? And this would be so that's kind of like it, really. Just food for thought. Just go away, think about it.
So would anyone like a further workshop on this plan in particular? Yeah.
It'd be helpful. I think the parts that I'm interested in from this end of the next of the wood is the polluters, agricultural polluters, and what strategies are they putting in place to address their problem? Or do we force them into a position of this is what you need to reduce by to get this, to turn that up? But then again, just reminding ourselves that even if we did do it in Aotearoa, it's really the model for the rest of the world. We don't want to make ourselves the prime example, but nobody else does. So, it's got to have a sensibility about it. But I would say that what that's setting out to us anyway is that that's the polluter, and that's where the problem needs to lie, and it must be across the whole industry internationally.
Already happening, Mike.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already got climate change targets set by the national government, and we, for those of us that are dairy farmers, we have emission targets that we're already having a set. So there's already limits on nitrogen. There's already limits on a lot of stuff. So it is happening. I mean, the reason that stands out like a skyscraper is simply because of the volume of that is our area. We are an agricultural area, so it was always going to be the outlier. Doesn't mean to say that we can't get better, but that process is already in place. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so then we need to have those markers showing that variance across what's actually happening, and what does that mean in 50 years' time? If they've reduced this, what does that mean? And we should have an indication to show that that's happening. And then there needs to be the carbon tax. We know the country never got carbon tax across that, and yet there's carbon polluters, and so again that type of thing versus growing trees and growing all the other stuff that needs to go into it. Yeah. But obviously the majority of it's going to be down the other end of the wood. The other part there is the, and I think it's been addressed also on the Hauraki Golf Forum stuff, is about potentiality of returning pasture back to eels, if you like, or industries that might have to step outside the square. But in 50 years' time, if you had those successful things happening, it was going to be happening, and you transferred those blocks. So we have regional council at the moment that's taking in some of the properties at the moment that I think something like $20-30 million has been spent on just one of the paddocks down there that's been taken off the farmer. So the purchase off the farmer as we're going through. So there's that type of strategies. So rather than fighting the climatic change, you live with the climatic change. And so there's some big out of the square answers that need to be driven by central as well as localised as well as iwi opportunity. So those were our pātaka kais. These areas we're talking about here are the pātaka kais of our people. old. In fact, I think they've done a study on, I think the industry of the agriculture industry would be 5 times, I think, 5 times richer if it'd been the other way around. What the current industry does. I don't know how ineffective or how that was, but that needs to be spelled out to this equation as well. So there's a few mixture of arguments around industry, environment, and commercial opportunities.
So do you want a workshop next to be online?
Yeah.
Is that all right if you arrange that? Yeah. All right. If there's nothing else. Oh, sorry, James.
Just a couple of points. I'm reminded of Waiti Marae, and the reason that it sits where it sits now is because where it was positioned prior to its current location was affected hugely by the draining of the flats out that area, and so they had to move to Kaiwi, and the waters became putty, and so they moved to where they are now, and that's an impact of that type of thing that you talked about, Mike. But also, I think one of the things that we all have to hang on is the Manawhenua statement, and I think it sets the goal not only for us in Te Ao Māori as to how we should be respecting why or what we should expect our waters to be like, but also as a challenge to all parts of our country to try and live up to that particular statement. Te Manawhenua, te manu tira.
Anything else? All right. How do we go? We move it? The report we received?
It says that recommendations.
Oh, yeah, cool. Okay.
It's a survey, you've got to go to your climate change one.
So it's. Move for a second to receive that report, please.
Any feedback? I can continue feedback.
Yeah, so the feedback recorded is that we arranged it online. Oh, you just for the Manawhenua board members. Some more information about it. Okay, great, thank you. Number mover. So Mike, and seconder. That's really it. Motion carried. All in favour say aye. Any against? Great. Thanks, Anne. Thank you. And then we're going to move forward we're back to 8.1, the Manawhenua Forum Survey. Olivia, please.
My name is Olivia, and I'm here to present the annual Manawhenua Forum Survey. This survey was confirmed by the Forum back in December 2023 as something that we would continue to do, which we have done for a number of years, dating back, as you will see in your agenda and your attachment, from back to 2012 as part of the long-term plan. And we have reported on the second question in the questionnaire attached to your report today. The second question in the report was confirmed by the Forum as a performance measure that we would continue to use going forward during this long-term plan period, and we would report on the next 3 annual reports. There was what it all last year when we presented the survey around how the survey may look going forward.
So I just wanted to acknowledge that while we can't change the second question as it is set in the long-term plan, there is scope to look at changing or removing the other 5. So we're just looking for direction on that from the forum as to whether there's appetite to do that. And whatever the direction is, we will circulate the questionnaire after this hui. I just wanted to highlight that if we remove or change the questions, there is a risk that we won't be able to compare future feedback with feedback we've had in the past, but that is still something that we are able to do. And I also just wanted to highlight that we also have the historical verbatim comments that we received from the survey dating back to 2007. We haven't circulated it with this report just because because of the small number of responses, which risks the respondents remaining anonymous, but we can still circulate it after the hui if members would like us to. I'm just happy to take any questions.
Can I ask where the old questions that were the old why the old questions were taken out? I need context around that.
And as part of the 2012 long-term plan, so back in 2007, I think up until 2012, from what I understand, the survey questions were developed in partnership with the forum and council, and then as part of either the 2012 or 2018 long-term plan review, there was another workshop where the questions were redesigned in partnership with council and the forum, and so the questions changed.
Okay. There's definitely one of the old questions, I think. Would it be a bad thing keeping it in? That last question. How satisfied are you that organisations are making significant decisions on behalf of the community have an understanding of value values? It changes much, but it's not a bad question to get an indication of. I should wonder whether that question is not organisations, but even just further down, like what the committees within council, whether they have an understanding. Yeah.
So which questions?
Oh, sorry.
Just press the Roger button.
The last question there, it states that it was an old question. It hasn't been asked since 2018. How satisfied are you that organisations making significant decisions on behalf of the community have an understanding of Māori values? I'm not sure it's really relevant. Other organisations, like what impact does our answers have on there? I actually wonder whether we add that question in and we rearrange it to be not organisations but other committees within council. Does that make sense? I'd like to know that the audit and finance committee kind of have some understanding of Māori values, or the other committees that aren't us, and not the council itself, but the other bits and pieces.
To clarify, you'd want that question circulated within the forum and based on your perception of on the forum's perception of the risk and assurance. Is that correct?
Yeah. Do other groups have a survey like this then?
Not within council, but there are other councils that have similar surveys within their forum equivalents. So Hamilton City have one, so does Queenstown, and they use surveys as well to gain satisfaction and to track satisfaction and put it into the annual reports way to show that that you get that partnership between council and NZ. And
I mean, I don't know if it's a helpful measure that they understand how we feel or what we perceive it, but yeah.
Probably looking at the survey and wanting to know what the issues that come out of it are. Or for Evie, the biggest one probably is the question of capacity. So how much outside of the capacity of the governance groups that sit here, which is fine, what capacity does Evie have to respond to all the other parts of council? And can that be measured in terms of funding that's made available for us to respond to those different areas? So, for example, is adaptation, tourism, etc., etc., etc. You know, around the whole camp. And if we were to say, for example, $300,000 for the iwi to respond appropriately across council, and how many members we have sitting here at the council, you could count that up and show that then could be the level of funding that's required against it. So at this stage, I don't see that there's capacity funding that goes into iwi. Yeah, but it's not a question that talks about what is the investment in iwi doing that, other than being at governance level at the scene. But that for the governments to have capacity to respond is the big question.
I think the questions for me are fine the way they are, and I actually support what Hinoni's saying in terms of that last question and bringing them to be quite council centric, so that for me, what next is after this? It's all well and good to receive the feedback, but what's the work stream after that in terms of if our goal is 80%, is where we want to be, what happens then? Because we get this, but I don't think we then work towards getting to our targets. I'm probably more focusing on what we can do to improve things here. So that's why I like the questions.
Yes, in terms of the questions, all of them are not reported on, it's just that second question, just to, so the others would theoretically come back to the forum, and then they could be, where the forum would like to pass them on to council for review as a item or as part of the chair's update or whatever that looks like. But yeah, we can, if we to bring it back, and then it's up to the forum really to decide.
So does general council, does general council get this report?
They can do. Yes, we can give this to council and put it on an agenda for information.
Have they received it in the past?
Not to date, no, just because in terms of collating the responses, the low number of responses that haven't been brought back each individual year, just because of the low rate, which does risk the respondents remaining anonymous, which is why we've collected it this year, just to highlight how much data how far back it does go. But going forward and moving forward with the survey, we could definitely look at ways to provide it to council and back to the forum going forward.
So just another suggestion from that is what, if any, work streams or outcome have been actioned from the responses in the past?
I wouldn't have that off the top of my head, unfortunately. Yeah, it is under dance.
I was just going to reiterate the fact that that one question, whatever it has been in terms of the long-term plan, definitely goes to council. The results of the survey are made available to council, but not necessarily in a formal report as such. And yes, I agree, there's been, the information has been shared, but I couldn't specify an exact work stream that has come out of it.
Yeah, so just one sort of final second point, I suppose. Maybe that's a reason why we get a low response rate, because to me, why am I doing this? It's pointless. If there's no action, no follow-up, to me, putting my time into that, if there's no value receiving it, then there's no value in there. That's just sort of my last point. Good.
Madam Chair, I'm looking at page 32 and the treatment question there. I think there's quite a bit of work to be done amongst ourselves to understand how we get to say that this satisfaction and this 2012, I mean, 63% satisfaction the way council understands treaty of right only settlement issues, and I think we've been having conversations in the last couple of years about about the impact of treaty settlements on this council. And, we're a long way from having any understanding here at council about those impacts. So we've got issues amongst ourselves about how we understand these questions and respond to them. I said there's one here that it's quite concerning, actually.
Mm.
And what does that say about us? Clearly, we're not having the ability to wānanga amongst ourselves about how these issues affect us. We're just sort of responding off the cuff and without any sort of collective understanding of what the question is really asking us.
I guess just for moving forward, we were just wanting to confirm that after this week, when we do circulate the questionnaire, is it all the current questions, or is it just the one? Is it like the one that feeds into the annual report, or keep as is and add in that older question, or just in terms of kind of the very next step from our perspective in terms of providing the questionnaire to the forum? What does that look like? Just to clarify.
So from my perspective, I think again back to page 32, somehow we need to wānanga this because the impact of what's happening politically would change the look of this particular graph for 2025. Probably should have changed it in 2024, but clearly it didn't have an impact. So the ability for us to sit and wānanga about how to respond appropriately to these questions is probably the key piece that's missing for me in this conversation.
For you, for me, retaining the questions is good. It helps to sort of provide an overview over the years, which is what you've done. I think that's really good. Providing that comparative over time. So yeah, I would support retaining the questions. Questions as a whole.
Just a question for staff. Jill's raised a really interesting point here. As you do the survey, and then where does it go? And would it be a recommendation of the Manawhenua Forum that it be, that they recommend council do receive the results of the survey? What's the process? Because again, I get Jim's point. If you're answering the survey and it goes nowhere, what's the point of it other than that one for the annual report? So yeah, just to get some understanding around that thing.
So my suggestion would be we could circulate the questions following this electronically so that everyone can see them. We could, if it was the desire of the forum, schedule a workshop to happen after your June meeting to have the discussion over the questions if you would like. We would obviously make it available to council, but also if you wanted to have a formal resolution at your following meeting that could be put forward to council at their meeting. So we could organise a workshop in June if that's what the forum would like. We can have a discussion over the answers to the questions or the questionnaires. And at your following meeting, which would be August, you could formally make a recommendation to council, which would go onto the council agenda. That would be helpful. Alternatively, you could make a formal resolution in June, which might be hard if you'd like to workshop it. So I think that's a really good option.
Support that.
So that, I think the other point for you, Amos, was that we're all answering these questions. There's 8 different voices at different times that are answering a question for us to wānanga together. Because the questions are good, but do we answer them as a collective as opposed to individual surveys? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
I think from a for the one that's a performance measure,
yeah,
we absolutely can have that discussion together. That one in particular would have to be answered individually.
Which number 2? Yeah, number 2 in that questionnaire. Page. I think it is page. Yeah, I think it's also page 23 within the questionnaire that we've circulated, and that's that second question. How satisfied are you that tangata whenua with Manawhenua status are recognised and have meaningful involvement in decision making? That particular one, as Sandra said, would be from the different.
Yeah, so you can absolutely still have that discussion, but that question, for it to be auditable, would have to be filled in individually, but we can certainly facilitate a discussion beforehand if that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think so. Brilliant.
moving forward, should we move that the report be received and
Within the questions.
questions are maintained, but a further workshop about what we submit to council. Is that what we're thinking? Yeah.
So we can workshop the discussion at June, and then in your following meeting, you could put in a formal resolution, formal recommendation to council.
It's just right. There's no point doing something no one even reads it. Okay, can I have a mover then? Jill, seconder. Andrea, all in favour? Any against? Carry. Thank you. Thanks, Andrea and Olivia. Oh, we're staying there again. Okay, we're going to move on to item 8.2, policy and bylaw consultation update. Hey, Laura.
Forum members. Today, we just wanted to provide an update on the bylaw and policy review process to date, and really to highlight how your input has been incorporated into that process. So your report provides some details on the process to date. And so if it's okay, we'd mainly take the report as read, but we just wanted to highlight a couple of key points. So in terms of the gambling and TAB venue policies, you may recall the forum recommended a sinking lid policy due to social and financial harm that you were seeing on Māori whānau and communities. So as you'll see in the draft, council has opted to continue with the same cap as its proposed option. However, further feedback is encouraged just to consider community views prior to making the final decisions on that. And also there is a proposal in there for any new venues that they must not be established within 100 metres of sensitive sites, and that includes sites like Marae, Kura Kaupapa. And then we had two bylaws that we worked through with you as well. And so one of them was the cemeteries bylaw. And feedback from this forum was mainly relating to Urupā. And while this bylaw only covers council-controlled cemeteries, we've acknowledged the importance of accommodating cultural practices and traditions within the bylaw draft. So you may sort of see that in there. And on the community safety bylaw, we're really grateful for your feedback because it helped to shape our engagement efforts around this one. Particularly some outreach with Māori in terms of the marae committees and rangatahi community groups. And we acted on your feedback and held it on Hui, a webinar quite recently, and that was led by the mayor. And that helped to reach people that might not have been able to talk to us at our in-person pop-up days and things like that at the markets. And this forum also emphasised the importance of education alongside some of our policies and bylaws. So what we're doing is working on that once our final policies get adopted. So things like, where are the no skates, depending on what gets adopted, letting people know actually what are the rules and what's relevant for local communities. So yeah, we really wanted to just give our grateful thanks for your feedback along the way, and just as a reminder that it is open now for feedback, and we're really keen to hear community feedback. Also, as part of the recommendation, the forum are very, very welcome to provide us with your formal feedback as well, and that's open until the 13th of April. So there's another week and a half or so. And I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Olivia, but yeah, I'm happy to take any questions about any of the policies that we've got open at the moment. But yeah, kia ora and thank you.
There was 17 registered.
Yeah,
There was 17.
I think we had about 11 actually.
On the staff, yeah.
Actually turned up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's on the web. That's on the website. So people can listen to it. So there'll be questions. So just we gave the background, so that people can listen to that in their own time and perhaps frame up a submission the important thing is submissions. They're not policies that attract a lot of interest, but the gambling one probably is the key one that's of interest. So really encourage people to make a formal submission. What was the EPDC forward slash? What's the it's in here somewhere. It'll be listed.
Yeah, it's this talk.
Yeah, let's talk. That's right. www.mptc.nz/let's talk, and just it'll guide you through to pick on the submissions that you want to provide feedback on. You don't have to provide feedback on them all, but we welcome people's feedback. You know, that's what it's about, right? Go out for consultation, and yeah, so.
Sorry, what I did forget to say is we're really happy to come to any query. Like, I know it's not very much time left, but if you have identified people that or organisations that would like to know more, it's very short notice for both parties. But yeah, we're still open to that, even if it might be online or a phone call, something like that.
Oh, and the other thing to add was you can do a paper submission at the library.
Anything else?
My only thinking is around providing a combined Manawhenua forum submission. How could we do that? Given all the feedback, could that have been the basis for a joint submission? So that would have been quite handy to have received in terms of all that feedback sort of being provided would have maybe helped us to provide a joint Manawhenua forum submission. Because I think in the past, we've never done that. And I would like going forward to see an opportunity for the Manawhenua forum to be able to make a joint submission through a workshop process or whatever that is. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Leave that in your guys' hands. But yeah, that's sort of where my thinking's at.
Good.
Have we got time to do that this time?
Today.
Have you ever feel about that? How about this? Are there any particular items that you think we should make a submission on? And if one of us could put that together and circulate it around. Agree or don't agree? I don't know. Because we did it. Should we take it on our workshop agenda and see what happens?
I suppose seeking guidance. If we did start sort of where my head was at, which was what is there anything of the combined feedback that you guys may have in a document somewhere that would be maybe easily populated so that we could maybe, in terms of timing, could that then quickly be transferred or formed into a group submission?
I think the one for me that would be really obvious is that the forum made a recommendation in terms of the sinking lid for the gambling policy. We could certainly go away, turn that into a submission on TMF's behalf, which we have done in the past. We have, staff have gone away and taken those thoughts and tried to write them into a submission jointly on behalf of the forum and just emailed it out after the fact and got the majority of people saying, yes, you're on the right track. So I think particularly for that gambling one where you've given us a really good, clear direction, I think that would be pretty easy for us to write for you and then you can come back to us.
I'm happy with that. And just maybe to add, if anything stands out in regards to the feedback provided, in regards to the other ones, maybe highlight that. But I think in terms of timing where we're at now, that's a good start in terms of us making a joint submission would be great. And then obviously the feedback going forward would be what does that look like? Very good for you guys to sort of work out how we could do that together.
And I think the benefit of the way that we're approaching it is we're coming to you well before we've got the draft. So all of that stuff has actually already been incorporated. So I think we've well and truly captured a lot of that. But definitely that sinking lid one is the one that stood out to me that we could definitely write a submission on your behalf.
yeah, that's good. Soon, be formalising our own process here. I think we should be doing that. On pretty much everything, have a joint opinion about something, and let's forward. Thanks, Joe. Anything else? Cool. So we can move that report be received, and also that we consider providing council with formal feedback on policies, bylaws, strategies as a joint voice. Move for those.
Oh, I was just going to say, going forward, the majority of our consultations happen in April. We could just make it a standing item on your April workshop agenda going forward, which obviously doesn't help us this year, but would that be helpful for next year? We can pop it on the work program.
Sounds good. Okay, no mover. Jill, second that. Andrea. Oh, all in favour? Aye. Any against? Carl, great, thank you. Thank you. Okay. We haven't seen you in a long time. District Plan and Resource Management update.
Kia ora. With me today, I've got Carolyn, the RMA Policy Team Leader, and my colleague Deidre, so Regional Policy Partner. So today we've got two sets of updates. The first is actually around the resource management reform. So I've got a bit to update on that, and then we'll move into our district plan updates. So last week, March 24th, MFP put out some information on phase 2 of the RMA reform. Specifically, there were details provided around the 2 new acts that will replace the RMA. So the first act is the Planning Act, and that looks at governing land use planning, looking at regulation, enabling suitable urban and infrastructure development, and that will largely sit within the territorial authorities. And the second act is the Natural Environment Act, and that will pertain to matters mostly to do with regional councils around use and protection and enhancement of our natural environment. Specifically land, air, freshwater, marine, and other natural resources. These 2 acts together will feed into one spatial regional plan, and at this stage it will be one regional plan per region. So, and that is the other key mechanisms that have come out in the update is they sort of using standardized zones at a national level and providing a more consistent way of assessing how things will affect the natural environment. Our current RMA is an effects-based system, so lots of grey area, and so we're looking to do away with that. A lot of the information was put forward through cabinet paper and through their fact sheet. I think of particular interest to iwi, to the TMF, is mentioned in 224.6 in the cabinet paper, where it says the new system will make it clearer for iwi and Māori to develop their own land through the mechanisms of reduced compliance costs and looking at cheaper, faster, and less litigious processes to enable that. So the MFP has actioned this through their 2-page national direction by confirming there will be a number of national environmental standards to be introduced, one of which is an NES Papakainga. So until that is released or a draft version is released, we will continue with our PC 1454 Papakainga plan change as per normal until we see a draft version released in the middle of the year. So that's it for our reform update. And I'll move on to our district plan changes and just give you a brief update on any changes that have happened since the report. So starting with plan change 49, Waharoa, we have a site visit that's planned for Thursday. And that will be a really good opportunity to give our technical team and also our champions a chance to give us some place-based experience in Waharoa. So in attendance will be Annie, who's our transport engineer from Grey Matter. So he'll be able to provide input into the spatial plan that we've got so far. There will also be Wayne, who's our urban designer, plus our team. So it'd be a good chance for everybody to have a discussion about where you've got to so far. Moving on to our plan change 54, Papakainga. As I said, there's a national environmental standard for Papakainga due to come out, a draft version is due to come out middle of this year. And until then, we continue with our plan change as normal. We've got some ends to tie up regarding our toolkit and some internal conversations that we will be taking on next week. Once that draft version is released, our policy team will begin reviewing it. So private plan change 55, Fonterra. We have now entered begun evidence exchange, and Marius has prepared our section 42A report, and our team continues to work through towards our May hearing. In terms of plan change 61, which were the national planning standards, as of Friday, we have our iwi authority consultation has closed. That was end of day Friday. So at the moment, our team continues to work towards formal notification for that plan change. And lastly, our Hauraki Gulf Forum. There's a couple of key updates for this. Mayor Toby Adams from TCDC has resigned as co-chair, and so at the last meeting, Councillor Warren Maher from WRC was appointed as co-chair along with Nicola McDonald. Sorry. And the second update around Hauraki Gulf Forum is just around the forum members unanimously voting to support the initial proposed amendments to the bill, and they've continued to have their support for that initial version that was presented to the select committee and oppose the newer version that was released of the bill. And that would be it for my updates. Do we have any questions or if there's any comments?
Chair, can you just expand a little bit more about the implications for Papakainga plan change? I anticipate we're going to be asked about that, so
Sure.
I'd like to hear a little bit more. Thank you.
Got it. So at this stage, I don't have any of the details. So if and our team has any further details, I'll pass it over to Carolyn.
Sure. So we will run the process as we have been. So we will expect to keep working on the toolkit. We've obviously had conversations about a hui to talk about the ancestral link. So we'll carry on. The NES NFB's reporting that it won't be
operative till early next year. And someone may lodge an application by then, so we have to be ready and process it as it's lodged. And we'll just wait and see in the middle of the year. Following on from the comments that you gave before about making a submission to things that come up, Forum obviously would be interested in making a submission to the NES when it comes in, so we can work with the tuatahi and the team about how we can facilitate feedback into that process.
Chair, so to clarify, if the NES comes in and whānau have not made an application, they need to, then the identification of their land as being appropriate for public buying might be brought into question. Is that correct?
Potentially, we just don't know at the moment what the NES is going to say, because we obviously had that provision in our plan change for Papakanga to occur on general land in addition, general rural zone land in addition to the identified Māori purpose zone. We could assume that general rural zone will carry on, but yeah, we don't know. We've been given no information or no tidbits about what it's going to contain.
And so the state
So maybe I can just give you a little bit more clarity on that. Kia ora, Ellie Van Craig. So with any NES that comes out from the government, they will do a consultation phase. So they've just indicated that something will come out. It is with the aim of enabling Papakanga. So it has the same vision, I guess, as our plan change. But until that consultation document comes out, which gives kind of the direction that they're going, we don't have any information. We just know it's coming. We don't know when, but we anticipate it's going to come before the consultation round will come before the end of the year. Once that's gone through the consultation process, then they'll have a final document, and then they'll have an enactment date. And as per what Carolyn has said, is that we're going to continue to run our process, because that process may take a year before the new provisions of the NES come in. And we want to enable Papakanga within our district now. So we're going to keep working on our the work that we're doing through the toolkit and with that ancestral link. To be fair, it's about enabling Papakanga, which is what our plan change had, as well as where the NES is going. So we do think there will be some similarities, but we can't give you the definite on that because we're not the drivers in that. So really the team is here just to give you an update and to say this is potentially coming. We don't know when, we don't know what it's going to have, but we'll keep you updated. And like Carolyn said, you know, around submissions, how could we, you know, work with the Manawhenua Forum in making a submission, and we've taken those comments on board that you said in the previous one to see how we can facilitate that once the consultation period is announced.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I think I missed something. What's the NES?
National Environmental Standard. Yeah, so they're produced by the government, and a council can't have anything that is more strict than an environmental standard. So it's setting a baseline.
Just through you, Madam Chair. When we get to a point of receiving that information, for me, it would be good to understand and maybe get a report on the changes, the differences from our perspective, not just not a legal perspective, but not just a comparative exercise. So to get in terms of all our thinking of where we've come from, where our intentions were with the Papakanga plan change, etc., it'd be good to build that into a comparison report of some sort.
Yeah.
Following on from that, in terms of the RMA changes and all that sort of thing, for me, it would be also good to sort of understand the changes, and especially in regards to utility, what does that all look like for a Manawhenua Forum perspective? Yeah, is that enough?
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Right, very naughty. My apologies. Just to with that kōrero, just to expand that, how do you see that happening? We obviously, with government consultation, it's a very short time frame. And most times we're only given 20 working days to do that comparison or the effects of that legislation, then to consult with the team to get it all through and the council to get it all through. Obviously, that's a very compact time. Is there any suggestions that you have that could facilitate the team in achieving the deadline and making sure that submission represents Te Manawhenua Forum, the council, and obviously the technical perspectives as well?
I think my initial thought was to receive the information would be a good first start, and then maybe because we have some really skilled people on our forum who probably understand this a bit more than some, I don't know if we sort of form a committee in that sort of space to receive, to hopefully work through that, or it's just receiving the information that to trigger someone to respond for us or to provide a response for us.
Through you, Madam Chair. So Rochelle will definitely be looking at that, and it won't be me because it will be the Shanti Nings and our technical team. But I think it would be good to have like run your eye over the comparison between the provisions of Plan Change 54 versus what's in the the discussion document that comes out, and just to indicate whether because it sounds to me like, as you were saying, that Caroline, as you were saying, with it being basically a baseline, and that the provisions that council puts in place has to be better than that. So there may be changes that have to happen to, which by and large would be more favourable for the establishment of public home, I'm assuming. So just indicate which one's sort of falling a bit short and where whānau have got like an advantage over what's in the NES via Plan Change 54. Just a quick sort of like green light, virtual red light sort of thing. It doesn't have to be massive. My concern is this going to take, my main concern is this going to damage the expectations that have been raised with whānau, with the identification of the multi-purpose zones, and it sounds to me like it's not going to. It doesn't sound like there's any intention for council to review Plan Change 54 to remove some of that in the multi-purpose zone if there is actually less in the NES.
So the NES or NESs are like new rules, so they can trump our rules. So I don't think at this table or at this time there is any expectation that we're going to review Papakainga. We will see how those two meet together. There may have to be some changes because they don't mesh beautifully together. There may be some inconsistencies or some gaps and some holes once we look at it. But at this stage, given that we do not know the detail, it's really hard. But the vision of our plan change and our understanding of the NES is to enable Papakainga. So we probably don't foresee anything. There might just be some wording or some technicals, making sure that they do align. But I don't see us reviewing the whole plan change and starting again.
Right. So I think that where we got to with what could happen is like send us the information for a start, and then have your team go through and just really look at Plan Change 54, look at the NES, and work out where there are where there are differences potentially, and maybe even just sort of as a first rough run through, highlight areas where I think there might need to be some work done on the district plan, the Plan Change 54 provisions. Like we won't take it as like that's it, there's a decision made, but just to sort of run the protection wire, that would be good. that would be really helpful for us. I think that's probably what we need, just to know what the implications look like they're heading towards.
Good to see you back again. 2 years ago, we started this pop-calling, and to hear the new rules coming out now without information to the iwi, feels like we're starting again.
So our Papakainga plane change that we started, I think it was a little bit longer than 2 years ago, Gary? It has actually come to fruition. So those are our rules in our district plan. Unfortunately, we don't have control over what new mechanisms the government comes out with. So we saw it as a priority and we did our own plan change, and so we've been ahead of the game. The government now see that Papakainga development is a priority, and they want to have some consistent approaches for enabling Papakainga across New Zealand, and so that's why they're coming in. So we're hoping that there will be some similarities with both of them. Theirs might be more enabling, which will make Papakainga within our district more enabling, or we might already be more enabling and we will stick with that, more enablement. So yes, it is a little bit frustrating because we thought we have given some certainty to Māori iwi around Papakainga and how that can be achieved, and now we are going to be in a little bit of change, and we don't know what that change is because that's been driven by the government at this stage.
Ellie, how long do you see that window being between the report coming and then us needing to give some feedback?
Sorry, I know it's a lot of uncertainty, but it really depends on how long the government give us to make that submission. So we will do it as soon as possible. And I was just wondering if I could put something on the table, given that Andrea has been sort of informally nominated to we were just wondering whether we could send it out to everybody within the Manawhenua forum and then maybe just check in with Andrea to see her thoughts, or even somebody from Orokawa. They were obviously looking at doing their own submissions to see if there's any points that they would really like us to drive. Obviously, we need to check in with council as well, but just wondering if that's an approach that sits comfortably with the TMF.
I'm good with that.
Well, the question of timing. When and
we don't know. So at this stage, they said it's coming out before the end of the year. So that will be that consultation process. But when it actually becomes enforced and after what consultation they get back, we don't know. We're not the driver of those timeframes, unfortunately, but we did feel it was important to raise it here.
So anybody looking to lodge between now and then is likely to be okay.
Anybody who lodges between now and it actually becoming royal assent and becoming operative will be using our rules that we came through the working group and through the plan change.
Essentially, though, we're all in agreement about the rules that we have set as Matamata-Piako. So really, the submission would be an agreement other than any adjustments that need to be made after the NES report comes. Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, so really, if they come back with a whole lot of stuff that we do need to adjust, then we'll probably need to make a more considered submission. Then we're supportive of it as it is. If it's in line with ours, if it's in line with ours, right.
I think one of the timeframes will be tight. They're going to be very tight. So the chances of it coming up when we have a forum that 3 is relatively low. So it will probably be something we'd need to do on the email, and we could always organise Teams hui to just go over things. But I think one of the comforting things is that if we go over it and it looks like it's not favourable compared to plan change 54, then whānau had the opportunity to lodge a resource consent or get started on Papakainga under plan change 54 ahead of it becoming the law, because there is that sort of discussion in formal submission phase. So there is time to let whānau know what the implications are.
I was just going to, I'm happy to support that process if Andrea's okay with that. And then if there's a follow-up teams or anything else following up from that, then hopefully we can organise that when and if required.
Anything else? Okay, can we have a mover that this report will be received and also that the NES report was sent up to the TMF with any comparisons of necessary adjustments? Thank you, and then we'll go forward with the online circular mission if we need to. Mover? Leo? Seconder? That's okay. Oh, all in favour? Any against? Oh, carried. Thanks, Commissioner. Congratulations. Thank you. Right, Laura, back again. I'm just talking about the campaign to support smoke-free outdoor spaces policy.
Kia ora, Anor. This is just an opportunity to kōrero about the planned awareness campaign for Council Smoke-Free Outdoor Spaces policy. I do have some slides just to show you shortly. I've actually just accidentally typed over something. So yeah, this is following the forum's suggestion to raise the profile of the policy. It was reviewed quite recently. And as this is a non-regulatory policy, its success is kind of reliant on community support and awareness. So we would really welcome your feedback and any ideas so that we can achieve an effective campaign. So what we're planning on doing is running this in the lead up to World Smoke Free Day, which is on the 31st of May. We're going to utilise social media posts. They'll be highlighting the health and environmental benefits of smoke-free outdoor areas. And we're looking at sort of having a different theme each day, and I'll show you that in a moment. And the overall campaign is obviously to promote the policy, to let people know that we have it for one thing. And also that it includes or show the different areas, so that's the CBDs and parks and areas like that, so that people are aware. And we'll also link some messaging to support services. So whilst our messaging is not telling people to quit, but it's just providing the resources if they choose to do so. So I will just share my screen now. Hopefully I can do that okay. Share screen. Sorry. Yep, go. And we'll go slideshow from beginning. So yeah, we've just drafted some key messages here. So this will be the first day, really just a general awareness post. This is happening. This is what the policy is. Here are some of the areas that it covers, and some benefits of having our smoke-free areas smoke-free. And we'll be encouraging people to share our posts in the lead up to that day on Sunday. And what we're hoping to do is work with some of our partners, and we'd be very keen to hear from you if you have people that we can work with to share our messages as well, to work with us during this week. And we have, so one of the areas that we'd like to focus on is, and it didn't actually change, sorry. Sorry, I'll just have to share my screen again, I think, because it's not moving on. Sorry about this. Share screen. I'm very technologically.
We all have our strength.
I shared the screen, but it wouldn't change. PowerPoint slide, sorry. Should be on that one now.
It doesn't show nicely on the screen.
Oh, okay. So yeah, one of the areas we wanted to focus on is tamariki and supporting their environments to be smoke-free. So they are more susceptible to that secondhand smoke. And we are also hopefully looking at some opportunities to do a video with a rangatahi group to hopefully share their perspectives on why it is important.
I didn't make any of that.
Oh yes, I did. Oh my gosh, it's just got a bit of a delay. And just take into consideration feedback that we had from this forum about vaping, and forum noted an increase in vaping among Māori, and so what we wanted to do is make it clear that this policy also includes vaping as well, and some of the effects. I think I've included some information in the report. They're not quite known, the long-term effects at this stage, but we want to make the air that include vaping as well. And whilst it's going to be like the weekend, so we thought we'd take that opportunity to be like, hey, if you're getting out and about, sports games and things like that, this is just a reminder that our parks and everything are smoke-free, because we have heard comments from little kids, they're playing sport and then they see people smoking and even drinking alcohol as well, which is a separate issue. But we thought it would be a good opportunity to share that messaging. And that was it. And I'm really, just want to hear your feedback if you think these are on point, or if there are any other suggestions or ideas. That's where we're thinking at the moment. Just stop sharing so I can't cause any damage.
Just a question for clarification, because we have our council policy for smoking, we included not vaping in our CBDs. This is a separate policy to that.
This is the same policy.
Oh, it is the same policy.
The smoke-free outdoor area.
That changed the
smoke-free outdoor spaces policy, and within that policy it includes mats where not compulsory not to smoke, but it's like we want to get the community on board that we don't want smoke in this area. So it's the CBD areas. Includes parks.
But we also included vaping.
And it does include vaping, yes, yeah.
So if you're just interested in Manawhenua Forum's view on including vaping.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not, I don't think that people understand the long-term effects yet. Be my assumption.
I agree with you on the vaping one, and encouraging that as much as possible. Utilising digital again. Irirangi Māori mediums, and utilising the language, as well as probably suggest some ideas like that, pulling some of our sports people into this, and perhaps drafting up those programs, and also work with the Korowai Haura, Airaki, get them on track to even collaboratively work with yourselves on what could go across the rohe, and in particular this part of this takiwa. Yeah, and so that's this is a major impact. Our youth are getting I was going to sucked into thinking that going on to vaping gets rid of smoking. That's basically our result. And so you've got a major risk there, and a major health impact that's happening, et cetera. So yeah, and I think the varsities and the Krakaupa and those areas there, anything that does that. And so just keep them on track across it. Maybe come up with us with a report on that. That'd be great.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Well, they'll move to receive the report.
I just had one question in regards to like we have the licensing laws that limits where and how many potentially licensed places we can have. Is there anything like that in regards to vape stores in particular?
Oh, that is a central government. Central government regulates that.
Yes.
And so I do know that they're kind of bringing in rules, as it gets more of an issue. They're kind of like, I think recently they've introduced that, allowed within a certain area of a school. But as terms of the numbers, I'm not actually sure. I'd have to look at that. I don't know if there are limited.
There's no
amounts of
regulations
licenses.
around.
Yeah, but I know they are kind of scrambling to put in different rules.
So just
But I
another
don't know
question
the numbers,
with,
but that's a good-
in terms of what's council's ability to install, to adopt or develop regulations on its own back.
that might come because we have similar responsibilities in other areas. So it may be very well that is in the works, but I haven't heard anything. But it might be coming.
It would have to be government
Yeah,
driven though, not
would,
the council's ability to do it.
it would be government.
Yeah, we don't have the ability to make a rule around paper. No.
They might bring in similar provisions to like what we have around gambling, for instance. Yeah, but I haven't heard.
Oh, so we just moved it, the report being said, sorry,
Second,
did you get much out of like, I was saying use radio, high profile people,
Yeah.
big campaigns?
Sorry.
Yes, that was very valuable. Thank you. And I will get in touch with Te Korowai or Hodaki. Question. And yes, we'll come back to you because by the time you meet, this will happen. So yeah, we'll come back to you and report on how it went, and hopefully it was hopefully it's a success and we get that messaging out there.
Do you have any stats on who the offenders normally are?
I sort of see that you can kind of see them every day, but unfortunately.
What's the demographic? Is it mostly young people, or is it? I'm just thinking if you're going to do like a social media campaign, so there's no point reaching to the demographic that isn't.
We don't really get, from what I have seen looking at our stats, we don't really get actual complaints about smoking, but we can sort of see it happening, I think, in these spaces. And also when we, when we've been out and about consulting on other things, people tell us these things. But I think I've definitely heard the example of like sports fields, a lot of smoking happening there. I don't know. I really don't know about the demographic, but I haven't really heard, like young people are smoking, for example. But we know in the stats that, especially in vaping, that's an increasing trend. Yeah. So it is a bit of a mix of the health messaging and also the fact that we want to protect our young people by not smoking in public areas. That's a bit of a mix. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Mr. Mike's already moved it and Jill's already seconded it. Yeah, all in favour? Any against?
Just as another promotional one that you're looking at, make it available, smoking, non-smoking and vapor signs provided by the council and handing out to all the motels and all the all those ones. So make it available free as a promotional tool rather than a
we can get direction. I think we can get them from Housing Seat anyway. I remember putting them up in a netball centre many years ago, smoke free.
Yeah. It may be something that, we kind of lost a bit of traction on, I think, in general, the smoke-free messaging. I don't see that much around anymore. So, yeah.
Having any stings around the shops and what they're selling? Is that the police or is that that's legislation? I doubt that there'd be very much because I think even they stopped selling the disposable ones. They need to have stopped selling disposables. Yeah, certain disposables. Oh, is it certain disposables? Okay. Anyone under 30? Yeah, we're powerless to. And because even with our policy, it's the policy. It's not a bylaw that we can enforce. This is a social conscience, social behaviour thing to be considered by the people. that's basically it. Just as an aside, I can remember umpiring netball at Matamata one year, and the sun was vaping out on court 3 out of the park side there, and there was just this haze coming across, drifting across the court at night. So yeah, very interesting. Sorry about that. Thank you. It smells a bit yummy.
Hence why,
At least it's not cigarette.
yeah, hence why that trick.
Yeah, yeah, much so.
But you know, like you say, anything down in your lungs isn't going to end well.
No.
All right, so we can move on to the last item for this part of the meeting. It's the representatives update. So this is where we just go around do a round robin of how things are going. Anything exciting you want to share? Start this way.
Kia ora tātou. Ai te hea tiki a koe te kolo matua, mare kura me ki o tēnei o tātou whakata nei. I tā mai ia koe ki tō mātou reo irirangi, ai whakanui tō tātou tau toru tekau mārima. Ki tāku mōhio, e toru ngā reanga kia whako ki tūturu mai tō tātou reo. So it's had 3 generations to return the language back to its stages. So my daughter's generation was when we established it. Little girls come along and we get 35. So I think we've got about another 35 years and we should have the taumata ki tērā i ngaro haere. So e wero tonu tēnei ki a tātou. Engari kei te mehea tiki a koe i tai a tinana mai ki te noho a Māori mai, I roto I tēnā wa tātou hui, pai ki te kiti a koe a kanohi, waingani a tātou I reira I taua rangi. Tēnei whakanui ati ki a koutou ngā iwi. The word's still there too as you get kind. There was only 21 radio stations that were created and then they closed it because of funding. But we need to open that can back up and we need to challenge them. Each settlement should have a reo irirangi ake o ia taihana I rungi ngā whakataunga. So I roto I tēnā tuahutanga kau e noho pēnei tonu mātau tēnei anaki mo te rohe o tātou. Engari, kia rahi ake, wero atu tonu te kawana. O reira ka pai tō kia koe.
I'd like to introduce Biff Kelly. He's going to be undertaking a PhD research project in the Waiho catchment, and I suggested he come along and share with the members of the forum, just to say hello, you can meet everybody and let you know what he's doing. Maybe we should finish the round and then have come up and share.
It was fun giving up to Papa Kindness. My reaction to what's going down. Did this fair bit back with Ishma and things to carry for keeping us all up. And also our reserve for Rapa working and our Ohio 5 people reunion.
We, for those of you who don't know, Jill and I both operate an alternative ed space. And so when it's your home, we take the kids who are disengaged from school and try to shake them up a little bit and send them back to school, hopefully. One of the things we're doing with our one is in the next couple of months, we'll open up a nursery, a native tree nursery. So that if orphans want to come and visit, but that's just going to be growing out the back of our alternative ed space. So hopefully the kids can do some credits there, and that's should be in the next couple of months. It'll be up and running. Yeah, that's really the most news we have for the moment.
I was just going to add with a Ngāti Wérewere head on. We look to re-establish our clinic at Matamata-Piako, and in the process we've been asked by council to start to describe what a 50-year plan looks like for our whenua rather than because we have aspirations for the clinic, which is current, but also kaumātua units, which is also current, but also church, kohanga reo, of a kind. So we're in the process now of actually master planning all that. I'm hoping to bring it back to council shortly, but I want to bring a wheel of funders to Matamata somewhere in June, and wanted to actually take the opportunity to invite that couple just to see how we are working through what our policy looks like at the moment to set up our public bank to
Yeah, that's great. Can I just applaud Manawhenua and Jill for the work they're doing in the alternative, because it's quite, you're limited to numbers, but you know, you try so hard to help Kin get that contract. So just really applaud that, the effort that you're both making, because you know, if you make a difference for a couple of kids, it makes a huge difference to their whānau as well, doesn't it? So I can't thank you enough for that effort you're making in there to make a difference in our district. And yeah, great to hear what's going on. Thank you so much.
Good. So we'll move with all that information to be received. Yep, Andrea, and seconder. That's okay. Okay, that brings us to the end of this part of the meeting. Oh, sorry, Cliff. Come on, Cliff. Pardon me.
Tēnā mō koutou ka ia hua mai au i te pau o rau ki te kaukaro o Pātatere. Ko rua peka tōku marae a te waihau te awa. Whanu i te waka ngā tautiri te maunga. He tūhono au ki te taho o ngā hapu iwi o hauraki ki te taho taku pāpā nā ti tamate rā, nā ti tāwhaki, nā ti taratoka nui. Ai, tērā taha o taku pāpā, o taka anani te tūpuna, tērā taha atua no ki nā te haua, ako rangaiti te marae, nā te ororangi tāwhaki, te hapu, ko timuha taiporo te tūpuna o tērā taha. Nō reira, ka noho au i te rai tāpapa, te tūpuna o tātou mātua tūpuna o nā te tūkore te hapu, nā te tarangi tāwhia, nā te kapu manua whiti, anō reira akuranga tira, ka tūnei tūkore e mi a tūnei kia koutou katoa. Apologies for earlier on. I felt a little bit out of sorts. I wasn't expecting to be, I guess, giving some whakaaro on climate change, because I'm very early in the process of developing my topic around, I guess, water allocation, impacts of of climate change on fresh water. So, as Andrea said, I'm in the regional policy and planning team for Raukawa Charitable Trust. I've been in the position for 3 years. Finished my master's earlier on, and the kaupapa was around Te Waihau as well, just viewing perspectives on water management, freshwater management. But as I said, I'm developing the kaupapa, so I have to read it out, because I still have to write down and develop whakaaro, you know, as I'm moving forward. So basically, do a bit of a rundown on my kaupapa. So hoping to start a PhD studies in June, July this year. And the kaupapa for the PhD is around intergenerational tikanga, whakapapa, freshwater decision modelling. So it's really about finding the synergy between mātauranga Māori and environmental science, and how we might develop models and tools to better enable decision making from a collaborative perspective. So yeah, it's about integrated freshwater management, a tool, and creating that integrated freshwater management tool, which blends mātauranga Māori and environmental science. And the kaupapa is based in the Te Waihau catchment in the Raukawa Takiwa. So I understand there's a crossover along the Te Waihau catchment of a number of hapu and iwi, which I would be very interested in engaging on some level with various hapu, if that's a desire, those hapu along the Te Waihau awa. So my research seeks to address freshwater allocation, climate change impacts on freshwater, and policy effectiveness, ensuring intergenerational kaitiakitanga and resilience for iwi and hapu. as I said, my research is evolving, so there's a strong emphasis on collaborative approaches, bringing together iwi, regional councils and national policy frameworks to improve freshwater decision making. A key component is the development of a predictive and proactive freshwater modelling system that aligns with both Indigenous knowledge and contemporary environmental sciences. Now, I know there's going to be a number of things to consider in that space, because we don't want to take away, I guess, from our taumata of tauranga Māori, and also the science aspect that those sort of circles that we rotate in at a governance level. So it's trying to find a merge and a synergy there. So it's a bit of a challenge, but I guess in a nutshell, from my development, what I'm developing towards is identifying the freshwater impacts from climate change on hapu interests in freshwater. And I guess the challenge has been for me trying to find a topic and a subject that hasn't already been done. So it's a little bit of an innovative component aspect involved here. So the innovative component for me is exploring suitable methods for helping hapu and iwi in climate change adaptation. So as I said, I think it's very much about looking at those climate change kaupapa at place. I might have knowledge and expertise in my area of the Raukawa Takiwā, but each hapu and iwi have their own expertise and their own experiences. So I see the value in data, looking at the data that's available, and also finding aligning that data with our mātauranga pukorero, and all of that kaupapa pertaining to freshwater quality and some of the experiences around climate change. I think the first step for a lot of our whānau is understanding the different levels of climate change and how they can impact our communities. So at this point, for me, very much about collecting data. So I'm looking forward to working with councils and our partners, our iwi partners, to work on that data and get a realistic view of what these climate change impacts can really, how they can impact on our taiao.
Hopeful. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. It'll be cool to watch. Actually, I forgot about Craig Solomon. He's actually online. Craig, can you hear us? If you have any updates from your side of the world?
Tēnā koe, everybody. No shortage of engagement for us. We kind of picked up a bit more stuff up in Tāmaki as well, because we had a guy retire that used to work for us. So we've been pretty busy. I acknowledge what you were just saying. Sorry, I forgot your name, but that's a big part of my job at the moment moving forward, is dealing with starting with two of our awa here, the Waifakauranga, or the Kauwairanga River, and the Kirikiri River, and how we can clean them up. So I'm getting engaged with WRC and stuff, and engaging with monitoring and all sorts of stuff like that, and trialing out new innovative stuff that's coming along to WRC, and data sharing, stuff like that. So we're all on the same page when it comes to cleaning up these freshwater systems. I mean, the Waiho's the biggest, one of the biggest. Waiho and the Piako is some of the biggest targets for us in the future, and no doubt we'll be working collaboratively with all that. In regards to the social network here, in Ngāti Mari's pretty huge. We've got 3 or 4 people dedicated to one thing, like looking after 3 rōpū groups. They're doing weekly things where, and they've been doing it for a long time. They have a TRAP group, which is Tim's Rangatahi Advisory Council type thing, where they have these kids, the selected little kids that come out of these rōpū, and sometimes I'll go and sit in community board meetings and that, and just giving them a taste of what it's like to, you know, make decisions and stuff. So that rōpū group's huge. We look after our kaumātuas on a weekly basis. Every Thursday they meet up the marae. I understand that Ohini Muri has they kaumātuas meet weekly as well. And so they've been going all over the North Island on trips, and also taking care of the well-being of our old people. And some of them they really needed it. You know, some of them came across to us and said, you know, we didn't even get a visitor at home for 6 months. So now they're absolutely totally different people. Some of them, they really needed it. So we kind of do all that, as well as all our engagements with different departments like yous all. Another part of the social network is looking after people that are you know, have problems, have court problems, things like that. We have a person dedicated to addressing a lot of those issues as well. Nobody wants her job, really. It's a pretty tough job. It can be a pretty tough job at times, and her phone doesn't stop ringing, and I just take my hat off to this wahine that does that job. So yeah, pretty busy for us all. I actually didn't think I was going to make it today, but I'd always try to. And then I got a bit of a nudge from the whanaunga over there, Mike, to say, yep, I think you can make it today, and I did. So I'm glad I have, and so thank you all. That's all from me.
Good. Thanks for that. Nice to hear from you. Cool. Well, that brings us to the end of this part of the meeting. So can I ask you, do you want to cut out this part or end the workshop?
Anyway.
What?
Yeah. Tuatahi tēnei kia koe te manuhiri hara mai nei. Hara mai, a manuhiri ngari hara mai a tāta pena I roto I o tātai e kōrua ake nei. Eki e te manuhiri. Mui te ahotanga. Engari, hara mai ki roto I tō tātou awa, rere ake nei. Ko te mana o te awa, ko te mauri o te awa. I ngā wā o mua I te wā taima kapine kuki e ki te ai I ngā kōwhatu te papa o te awa nei. Tērā te tirohanga e hia nei mātau I te wā ia kapine kuki. Ko e rā tāku wero atu te karauna nei, whakaohia mai tō tātou awa ki pai aku te wā e noho pohara nei. I ngā pihita motuane. No reira, e wero kairuni a koe, engari, me tā koha I au nei pūkenga ki kaue Matamata-Piako ka te rakaua ki te pupuri au a pukapuka, engari tā koha ki ngā tātau o tēnei, hara mai ki tō tātou wahanga te aua. E mahama ngā wāhi uti ngā puha I reira, ngā wāhine kohikoi ngā wāharaki ko ta kāinga nei, hoina te poa e mo tēnei tuāwatanga. Me maumahara ki a marutuahi te haringa mai ki kone, haere maru I te wā I te piki ake I te rākau, ore kau kāwhahu nei, nā te kōrero ngā wahine nei, kōrero tētai ki tētai, mākura, I te mutingi ho, mārau a tahi ho, hara mai hoki mai ki te wā ki kāi. Koe nei tāku I tēnei wātunu, tēnā hoki koe, e te heamana hau, hei whakaki anō tēnei tāku e whakaroa ke kia whai wāhi tātou ki te whakanui tō tātou wehenga muatarawa pukuia. Tēnā tētahi maura e whakarite, ke wāhi hei rapu tētahi taonga pēr. Hei whakanui ai I roto I tōna ke marae, mā mātou tēnei hei haere ngātahi wā tātou o te komiti nei, ki te whakanui I ngā mahi, hei whakahonari I ana I eke nei ki te ruahine o tōna taumata. O reira, tēnā hoki koe, ai te hinerangi hara mai, ki ake nei ki te taumata I hoki aku mahara I te wā I taumai Morehu McDonald. E te wero I te taumata nei. Pēnei ki a Ngāti Haua, pēnei anō hoki a Raukawa. E noho wahangui tēnei a Ngāti Whanaunga. I rungi te moe o te tau ngā mea tātou mātou ko te tau mātou hapu, kua hine a Ngāti Hinerangi. e no mātai tēnā, nā reira. Koe ki runga te taumata nei kura nei, I runga I tēnā o ko Ngāti Punau, anō ki tēnei tātai atu mātai ki a koe, nā koutou I roti te ahutanga nei, o matua, koutou rā pika wina o whakapa mā tātou, koutou ngā kaimahi kamuri. A ko tai te wā, ki whakaiwa tātou ki te kōrero ki te tāo whare. Engari tēnei whare, kaua waihoti atu tātou ki te ki reira, whai pungarihu, engari tiki atu anō mā tātou, o ki pēnei mai, ki tātou wānanga, ki tātou whiriwhiri, pau pararama, pau hihi ko I a tātou I roti te awatanga. Tuturu whakamaua ki tīna. Au e hui e, ko tātou.
Updates